The bishops tried to dissuade him from believing that God was embodied. The concept of a non-embodied God completely newfangled him. He said that is just incomprehensible. That is utterly ridiculous. This is the monk, 4th century, with his group of monks. And, of course, by their predecessors, that doctrine was not taught to them. That's not their doctrine. And yet, they were forced, basically, is how it was put. Paphnutius brought Photinus, who absolutely demanded that the monks believe in an incorporeal deity. And he says, the old man, at least, Serapion, moved by the very powerful arguments of this extremely learned man, we stood up to bless the Lord and to pour out our prayer and thanks to him. And then amid those prayers the old man became confused. For he sensed that the human image of God which he used to draw before him as he prayed was now gone from his heart. Suddenly he gave way to the bitterest, most abundant tears and sobs. He threw himself on the ground and he cried out, "Ah, the misfortune! They've taken my God away from me. These bastards have taken my God away from me. My God was the embodied God. They have stolen that image with their stupid philosophy, and it caused some serious soul-wrenching." He says, I have no one to hold on to, and I don't know whom to adore or whom to address, because they stole the Christian doctrine with their worthless, false, Platonistic philosophy. That was the reaction from those who had the early Christian doctrine. It's a very poignant picture. So on the basis of all the evidence deduced from the Scriptures, from Origen, Tertullian, Augustine, it seems clear that the Christians, from the very inception of the faith up until at least the last part of the 5th century, commonly believed God to be an embodied being. This belief continued despite the fact that it was challenged by both the Christian and the non-Christian philosophers and Platonists from at least the 2nd century on. As Platonism became entrenched as the dominant worldview and Christian view, the idea of an embodied God gradually faded into obscurity. Contrary to contemporary misunderstandings, the belief in divine embodiment did in fact exist, and it persisted among the faithful followers of Christ from Christianity's earliest beginnings up into the 5th century A.D. Such a belief was not only not heretical, but apparently was widely held understanding of God within both the formative Judaism and Christianity for the greatest part of the first 3 centuries. It is this understanding that was gradually abandoned as Neoplatonism became the dominant worldview of Christian thinkers. So far from being a departure then from the faith once delivered to the saints, Joseph Smith's declaration of divine embodiment as a sign of the times of refreshing, the times of restitution of all things spoken of in Acts chapter 3, verses 19 and 21, this is a return. It is even a restoration of the primitive doctrine of the divine embodiment of man and the divine capacity of man in the image and likeness of the divinely embodied God in heaven and of his holy Son. That's the true Christian doctrine. That's the true biblical doctrine. They not only changed the doctrines, they brought in the Platonist philosophy of the meaning of the Greek, which is not the same as the biblical Greek, and they changed the doctrine, and they apostatized from the true God. Joseph Smith has restored that true teaching.